Okay, I call the meeting to order, Tuesday, July 25th. I want to thank you all for coming. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, today is Tuesday, July 25th. I do want to let the public know that we will be going into executive session after I read the public announcements and upcoming meetings, and then we'll ask the room to clear, wait outside. I don't anticipate it being too long, and as we come out of executive session, we will come into the regular meeting, okay? All right, public announcements. First item on our list is volunteers are needed on the following committees: 200th anniversary, agricultural, capital improvement, disabilities, elder affairs, energy, finance, Memorial Day Patriot observance, Pecan School transition, and Nathaniel Thomas Mill committees. Applicants for appointment and info on the committee is available on the town website at www.hanson-ma.gov.
Excuse me, Jim, they
Yes.
also need a volunteer for community preservation.
CPC also. And we have been getting some. We've got some appointments tonight, so I want to thank those folks for coming in. But we definitely need more on our committees, okay? Tax bills have been sent out and are due on August 1st, so please don't forget your tax bills. The Water Department has announced a water restriction which allows for watering with a handheld hose from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Sprinklers are not allowed. Upcoming meetings. The Finance Committee will be held Tuesday, August 1st at 7 p.m. The Selectmen will hold meetings on August 15th and August 29th, both Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And again, for our public, we'll be moving to executive session in the beginning. I'd ask the room to please clear out. I know you guys did, that's why I'm sorry. But, we're gonna have to think about putting a TV or something out there in the middle, out in the lobby, I guess.
We'll save your seat for you.
Yeah, promise, okay? So I would make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Legal update and administrative professional dispatchers, highway and police unions.
So moved.
Second.
I call a roll call vote. Donnie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
We are now in executive session. And again, session, thank you all for coming. I wanted to make a statement from the executive session, which I've been advised I can do. We have ratified contract with contracts have been ratified with the Highway Union and the Fire Department. Some of the details with these contracts are that it's a 2% over the next 3 years, 2%, 2%, 2% increase. We also have something really important that I'd rather state is the changing in the health insurance. Currently, the way it works is for employees hired, is the town would pay 90% of the monthly premium cost of the individual and 80% for those of family care, all right? And the employees would pay the difference. We have now made that change where the town will pay, I believe it's going to 75-25 and 65-35 on the family plans. Now, the savings for that won't be immediate, but over time, and it just makes it more sustainable for our health insurance costs to the employees. So this begins, obviously, July 1st, 2017. Anybody prior to that still falls under the old plan.
New hires. Yep.
Okay, so any new hires from July 1st of 2017 will be getting those differences. All right, I think that's a pretty important point, and I want to thank Mike, Leo, and those members who are part of this. Anybody who wishes to have a copy of the contracts, they can get them from the town administrator's office with other details. Fire department had actually raises, differentials that were added to it. Highway also had employee increase in clothing allowance and overtime premium continuation, as it goes into quite detail in the contracts. So I wanted to make that known, and I have done so. And we're moving on to new business. We have a group of people here with us. I believe we want to talk about the discussion with Rosewood Drive residents. They've got some complaints that they'd like to have this board hear. I would ask and remind people to, raise your hand. Let me please stand up, state your name and address, and if you would make sure that you direct all points through me to kind of keep things even keel, all right? So do we have anybody from Rosewood Drive who wishes to speak first? Hi, would you mind standing up and speaking up at the podium? Just your name and...
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Danielle Sheehan. I live at 63 Rosewood Drive. I'm here more tonight just to try and get a follow-up as well from a conversation Mr. McEwen I had and another resident a few weeks ago. But our basic problem is the cranberry bogs that are out behind some of our houses. There is a massive pile of sand there that we've been told since February it will be moved. He's going to use it. He'll put dirt glue on it. And when the wind blows, we aren't even able to be outside of our homes.
Wow.
It's in our windows, it's in our cars, it's in our mailboxes, it's in our houses. So Mr. McHugh's been working with us to try and understand this, but he keeps telling us there's nothing the town can do because he's agricultural. So our last meeting with him was after a Board of Health meeting a few weeks ago, and he was going to look into air quality because it is affecting our air quality. We have to be inhaling that. If it's in my house, I'm inhaling it. If he had a permit, the Conservation Commission gave me an earth moving bylaw that the town has, which he's in violation of some parts of it, if I read it correctly, but I'm not sure.
You filed for...
He
Gravel-
or did-
gravel
because he's
removal.
agricultural,
Gravel
does it fall?
Yeah.
And does he have a farm plan, a permit to do any of this? So these are some of the questions that we left, face to face with him a few weeks ago. And I'm just looking for that, but
So can we ask a few questions? okay?
Sure, of...
How long has this been going on?
at least since February.
And did you ever have a prior issue with this?
No, this bog has just recently been purchased by this individual. It was owned by the family before. I've lived there since '99, we've never had any problems with the sand out there, piles out there.
Okay, and is it, there's new piles?
No, it's a big, huge.
I saw the piles,
Yeah,
and
okay,
I've seen the
yep.
pictures.
Yep.
And I kind of did, a bit of an investigation, but I just didn't know how long those piles had been there. So you don't think it's that they're new piles, there's just, for whatever reason, maybe it's been drier or?
No, this pile is new,
Oh,
probably
okay.
February.
Okay, all
And
right.
it's just too large. It is as high as our houses, the back of our houses, and it's just too big. If it was smaller, or broken up into individual piles, it probably wouldn't blow as much, but.
Okay.
When did you guys first notify this town hall? Is it March?
March or April maybe, yeah. But different people in our neighborhoods have spoken to the owner or the property manager numerous times. Ultimate salesman in my eyes. He tells us what you want to hear. Yep, I'm going to take care of it. He's even told the Board of Health, Matthew, 2 to 3 days, if you get a complaint, I can re-glue the pile. That was over a month and a half ago. So he tells you what you want to hear at the time, and then you wait 2 more weeks, nothing happens, and we're back here again. So we're looking for the town to help us out as tax-paying residents. We should not have to stay inside our homes during the summer, spring, or fall. It's worse in the spring, and I'm going to assume it'll be worse in the fall if this continues as the leaves come off the trees. I can say it's a little better since the trees, but Saturday, 4th of July weekend, we were not able to be outside the entire time because of the wind.
And now when it rains, is it,
It will, yeah, but
Okay.
because it's such a fine sand, that only mitigates it for a little bit. And as soon as it starts to dry out and if the wind picks up, that's.
Minute
oh,
it
yeah,
stops,
yeah.
minute it stops raining, it'll
Yep.
start blowing
Yeah.
again.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, have you seen I don't know if you folks, not just you, Danielle, but I know you speak for a number of people, a number of
Yep.
neighbors too. I do see letters that were sent from, by Bob Curran
Yep.
to AGDA. Did you see those yet or no?
I don't think I've seen Bob Curran's emails. I know Matthew has.
Matthew sent an
Sent
email
a
on
few.
June 9th, yep,
Yeah.
and basically indicated that he does have the right as Board of Health agent to do the inspection on that property, and especially if it involves air pollution of any kind. So they do have, it's not, the bog is not exempt due to agricultural issues if it is this issue.
Right.
So the Board of Health does have strong arm in it.
But I think they don't have any right to enforce it, is what I was told at the Board of Health meeting. And I could have that incorrect. But that was my understanding when we left the Board of Health meeting was he could file with the DEP, but chances of them actually hearing our case were slim to none. And the town of Hanson has nothing they can do about it.
All right, can I suggest something?
Sure.
May I suggest that we continue to hear from people?
Mhm.
And then that we work towards what our resolution can be and what stakeholders we need to bring together in town hall to address this issue.
As long as
No, without it being a hearing.
Right, it can't be, this
Yeah.
is not a formal hearing, folks, and there's a difference between the two. We're here to hear your complaints and to hear what you have to say. And I also have to, as chairman, it's my job to keep the meeting moving along, making sure that we're not being redundant, in what we're learning from this process, okay? I've seen the wind, I've not seen the wind, but I've seen how bad those windy days are. There are times when I simply don't go outside by my pool area because, and I've worked hard for my life for that too. I can't go out there and enjoy it because of how bad the wind is sometimes, when it's blowing stuff around. I can only imagine what you guys are going to do. You probably can't even have your windows open.
No,
Imagine,
can I show you, I have just 2 pictures, I have plenty more, but these are what I printed out. I live on the Donna Drive side of Rosewood, so essentially it's not even in my backyard. This is my back bathroom window, the back of my house. This was a skating rink we put up this winter. When did we take that down? March?
Can we pass that around?
Yes, you can, but I just want to show you, this
That's
house
all
right
sand.
here, that's where the pile is behind this house. That is all sand. We lost our rink this year because so much sand landed on it from flying through the air that the ice was melting.
Even
So
during
it
the winter.
literally has to go through somebody else's backyard, across the street, and into your front
into
yard
my front-
to look
and
like,
into my- That's my backyard.
that's your backyard.
That's my backyard, and that's my
Okay.
back bathroom window.
Have you shown this to the,
Mike
Wow.
McHugh has pictures of it, Matthew has pictures of it.
have you shown it to the ADGA Realty Group too, or no?
I don't know ADG Realty.
Okay.
It's the
It's
folks
the
that own
owner.
that.
Oh, we have it as Great Cattle.
Great Cavern.
Yeah, Great Cattle, Great Cedar Cattle.
Great Cedar, Cranbridge.
Okay.
That's pretty bad.
There's
Great
various
Cedar.
AKAs there.
I stopped
Yeah.
communicating with him in the very beginning because we weren't getting anywhere with communicating with him, so I was going straight to Swift.
Oh, yeah, I don't think we're suggesting at this point in
Right.
time for you to change that
So
scenario.
I don't know what he's
Yeah.
seen for pictures.
I should point out to you too that we have a letter that was sent by Health Agent Matthew Tennis on July 14th, where he basically has sent a formal letter to them telling them that the blowing sand particles is in violation of Mass Department Regulations 310 CMR 7.09. At this point, the Board of Health is ordering a good faith effort to be made to begin mitigating the blowing sand particles and reduce the impact to neighboring properties within 7 days from receipt of this letter. Failure to comply can result in further action to be taken.
As far
So
as
hopefully-
there was no reply to that.
Yeah, hopefully, I think Matthew's here with us today. We'll get some word from him on it afterwards.
Yep.
So, thank you for bringing in the pictures. I appreciate it,
No
Danielle.
problem.
Yeah, are we able to hold on to
You
that?
can have that,
Okay.
yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask Matt to join us and just go over briefly where we are
Sure.
in trying to mitigate this. And as Danielle, and I appreciate the fact she mentioned this, we have been speaking for quite some time and trying to come up with different approaches as to how to mitigate this.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was the unfortunate, it is an unfortunate situation in so much as the property owner as a farm enjoys an awful lot of exemptions, if you would, in terms of regulatory compliance, both on the local, the state, the federal level. However, as we looked a little bit further into it, we found that the Board of Health does have that sort of authority over an operation if it is affecting the air quality. Matt has gone out on several occasions, and I'll let him speak for himself, but Matt has gone out on several occasions to take a look and do what we can in terms of viewing the situation. We did have a conversation, as I mentioned I would follow up on, with DEP, both Matt and I forget the gentleman's name with whom we spoke, but we talked about them coming out with the possibility of them doing an air quality survey for us, which they're not able to do, unfortunately. And as we went through the conversation, the DEP basically said that the steps that we're going through at this point through the Board of Health are the appropriate steps. Matt has, as the chairman indicated, Matt has sent a letter to the owners. It has not been picked up. It was sent certified. Matt checked as early as today to see whether or not, service had been accepted, and it has not. And he's requested that that be resent to the property owner. Matt, and I'm going to turn it over to Matt in a second, but, Matt has indicated his willingness to go and go the route to file the complaint. But as he related, and as, my a little bit of investigation has shown, it very well may just be put back on us. So I don't know if you want to add a few things in, Matt, as to where things stand in your particular efforts, which I appreciate.
Yeah, would you just stand at the podium, please, where we've gotten some issues with people not hearing us. Thank you.
So, probably spent the last 7 weeks making several site visits. I've all written up in logs and my observations, weather conditions, everything like that. So I actually have notes. Like Mr. McHugh said with the DEP, it's in line with what needs to be done. If any further enforcement were to be taken, we actually have to witness certain things.
I saw that in your first June email, that you had to witness these events.
Correct.
And you couldn't at that time because it was raining, light rain,
Yeah.
which kept it down, but you did promise to go out there on site during those conditions that caused these problems that,
Which I have. I've gone out several times. I try to make the visits when it's dry. It's been dry. Twice I've witnessed blowing sand. One of the times it really wasn't blowing very far, but there was some whisking off the top of the pile. One time which was there, I did go actually out and speak to a couple of the neighbors. It was blowing pretty good. The sand was could certainly be considered a nuisance. So I had sent a friendly letter to the bog owner requesting some mitigation be done. I can't tell them how to do it, but just that they do something. Could be reapply the dirt glue, keep water going on it to keep the dam, remove the pile, cut it down, however it needs to be done. I got no action. I contacted the bog manager, who said he would talk to the bog owner. And I got no response back from him on that as well. So we had the neighbors, the abutters here at a Board of Health meeting, and 2 weeks ago we discussed it. Since we have gotten zero response and it's still a nuisance, I sent the order letter. In order for me to go to court, I have to have an actual order letter that specifies the time frame, because then they're in violation of our regulations. So that was sent out, hasn't been claimed yet. I just requested redelivery.
Yeah.
If it's not redelivered, I can have it served by constable.
is it 7 business days, Matt, or is it 7 calendar days?
7 counts.
Because it was sent on July 14th, which means that we're past that now, right?
Right. But sent certified mail, so time in the mail,
Yep.
it goes by from when they receive it.
Okay.
So if this doesn't get claimed, I can have it sent by constable, or served by constable, then the time starts on
That you see?
service.
I get you, okay.
If nothing's done, I can take it to court. It's a nuisance matter.
Are you almost at the point of having the constable send it?
I just requested the redelivery today, so if it's not claimed, it could probably be the end of the week, early next week.
Okay, so you're gonna pull the trigger on that sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a standstill until that's delivered and that time frame is up, at which point then I can take it to court, and ultimately that's where any further action could be taken, fines, and whatnot.
Now, Matt, when your readings here, I did read that they did apply some glue at one time, is that correct?
That was prior to me being here, I think it was in April, and when I was there, the first time the glue was still present, but again, it was also a rainy day, so it was tough to tell exactly how much. You could see where there were areas where the dirt glue had been broken through, whether it had been from degradation of the glue or whatever, that's not for me to determine. I wasn't there when it happened, but there was dirt glue applied. At this point, it's all gone. I was out there today and there was nothing left on the pile.
There was, so it does have a period where it breaks down and washes away.
Yes, I talked to the fire manager about it. That first time I was out there was probably the first week of June, and he said there's a certain period which it lasts, and there's no given time because the weather can affect it. But he had told me at that time that if I felt that it had degraded to a point where it needed to be retreated, let him know, a couple days it'll be retreated again.
Okay.
I've let him know twice, and the first time he said it would take a week, and then I think the second time he said he'd have to talk to his boss about it. It's never been retreated.
And again, he shifted the responsibility for monitoring whether it needs to be retreated to you, which is something they can clearly see. Okay.
He's managing the bog. I mean, they've,
Right.
a couple times I've been out there, there have been workers out there with water movement, whatever they've been doing, so they can certainly look at the file and say, hey, this needs to be dealt with.
That's right, I see it here, 2 to 3 days of notification.
Yeah.
You said this in your report, right?
But he's saying they said 2 to 3 days.
That's what the bog manager had
Yeah.
told me. That changed to a week and then to no response.
But it's been no response since that time at all, right? Since the first time it was done? Okay.
The height of the pile, there's a berm, which I believe had been dug out close to the property line. I believe that there had been a concern that the bank is eroding away. There have been some plantings, and it looks like the bank is being held in place. The sand pile is level with the top of that berm, probably about 25, 30 feet. If the pile were to be knocked down by 50%, the blowing sand would wind up hitting that berm, or at least the bulk of it would hit the berm instead of blowing into all the neighbors' properties. I mentioned that to the manager, and he said he would have to talk to his boss. So
Okay.
that's where we stand.
And do we know why that sand is sitting there, what the intended purpose is? Is it part of the gravel removal that they were doing, or is it something they're storing there? Like, because Danielle's saying that this came sort of like it started in the February timeframe, this thing appeared, so what made that appear there? Do we know? Was there any
I
explanation?
was told it will be used for resanding the bogs, which does get done a very thin layer of sand every few years. It has to be done in the winter. They spray, I guess they spread on the ice, and as the ice melts, it falls to the bottom of the bog. Supposedly they were planning on using it this past winter, but they didn't get the ice, so they said it'll be used this winter. There's a lot of sand there. I mean, I could maybe get some kind of measurement, but I would assume it's more than what would be needed for that particular bog, so.
Has the sand been there before? Can I call you Danielle, or?
Yeah, that's
The
fine.
sand-
Yeah, do you know when it?
Has it
The
been there before?
sand came from, I'm Rod McLeod, 52 Rosewood Drive. The sand came from the general area where the pile is.
Yeah.
Okay.
They went through a sifter, they got rock out of it of different sizes, they left the fine sand there.
Yeah.
But it's all from that general area.
Okay.
And then they've just made a pile of it there. And so it hasn't come from a different location or anything like that. It's from the premises.
Right. But I mean, like, has it been there in past years, or is it just
No,
because they put a new
not to
pile in
this
a different
height.
spot?
No, 'cause what he did was he dug out of the
That
hill.
area? Yeah, I
So
gotcha. So this is a
when
result
we
of
first
this.
moved in there, it was sloped from, the Clarks live right across the street from me. down, there was we could walk. You could, now it is a cliff. You could fall off of it and severely hurt yourself. Which, you know, on your earth removal that conservation gave me, that's why I'm questioning some of this. So I get he's agricultural. We're not telling him he can't farm his bogs, but I'm thinking the town has to have some say in how he's conducting a business in your town. And from what I'm hearing, that doesn't exist. And that to me is just ludicrous. If I was running a restaurant and the Board of Health came in and said you have rats, and they'd shut me down, but we have nothing for this guy.
Well, hopefully today we'll clear that up, because we do
Yeah.
have legal with us, Jay
Yep.
Talleyrand, so he'll be able to explain to you.
Yep.
Because as Mike stated earlier, there are certain conditions that they're allowed,
Right.
and some that they're not, from the Board of Health angle with
Right.
regards to
Jim.
property. Jim?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple,
Well, that's okay, Jim, you can go first.
okay. Excuse me, Mr. Watson. I guess this could go out for everybody that's on Rosewood. It's a new company that bought the bogs. When did they buy the bogs?
I couldn't tell you.
2 years
Okay.
ago.
2014,
But it was the
2015.
sand pile that showed up in basically February.
Correct.
So with the old owners, you had no problems.
Correct.
Now, the new company has come in less than a year, you have this ginormous sand pile.
At
So
that
there's
location.
been no problems with the other company, the new company come in, now we have problems.
Yes.
Matt, is there a certain size that a sand pile can be on a bog to get it prepared? Because it sounds, from listening to the residents and listening to you, that this pile is too big, the way it is.
It's large, but I don't have any authority.
He's
for
Board of
it.
Health, so.
Yeah, I
Okay.
have nothing in my regulations that say it
But-
can only be this size.
There's gotta be something on the books, if the farm, basically, Mike, what you said earlier with the farms, and they have all this stuff, basically, with the sand blowing all around, we have a problem. So there's gotta be something on the books with the farming thing, and I'm not gonna pretend I know, what the document is gonna say, but there's gotta be a height, Jay, to how tall these can
More of a
be.
fire code issue. There are, Matt and I and Bob talked about this, there's limitations on piles of any kind of raw material, whether it's mulch or sand or rocks, for a public safety thing, for more kids, like playing on it and the collapsing of piles that I think, I'm not sure what happened when we talked about maybe getting that referred to the fire department. It didn't seem to quite meet the threshold.
And I did turn it over to, and ask the chief's opinion, and the chief was comfortable with it at this point.
With the size of the pile.
Yes,
Yeah,
in terms of the safety concerns.
It's on height and breadth, so it may not have met the standard for it. That's the height of the pile. And there's the whole farm plan issue. I don't know where they stand with the farm plan. The agricultural exemption is not providing them with any cover. They can't hide behind that. That is not.
But they
that's
could
a-
be.
That's a zoning issue, but this isn't about zoning. The earth removal permit is something we're exploring a little bit and how to either leverage it or apply it directly to our best advantage here. I think the Board of Health, when we talked about it, we had to put it in the very limited jurisdiction of the Board of Health too. It has to affect air quality, and so that was a heavy lift for Matt to work through, and that's the path we're on. They're doing the things they have to do as a precursor to us going to court. I don't think that a court would have any trouble based upon a health agent saying that this stuff is airborne and affects breathing, and that's the kind of health nuisance that we have. Can't be just regular nuisance.
Right.
So, and we were trying to, Bob and Matt and I had several conversations, try and put it in the right box. It's not a neat fit from a regulatory perspective. Obviously, there are private remedies, those cost money. The neighbors have the more easily accessible remedy than we do, just because they're affected. It's a basic negligence standard. We have to apply only what we can apply through the tools available to a town. We've kind of whittled it down more or less right now to the health angle, and we're going through that process.
Thank you, Jay. Brian?
I'm all set.
You all set?
So may I ask then, do they have a permit? Is there a filed plan, farm plan within this building?
It's out of date.
Okay.
But is it
It's out
out,
of
so
date.
it's out of date, which means that it's not even his, it's Andrew's?
I would assume.
Which means when he
yes,
bought it, does it transfer?
That's
So
my
he's in
assumption.
violation
It could
of
be.
having no permit.
Well, the issue that I have found is the enforceability, and Laurie Muncie couldn't be with us today. The enforceability strength of a farm plan, or the lack thereof, is more of a conservation issue when it deals with wetlands. And obviously, we're really not talking about that this evening. So, and I'll defer to Jay on this, but my understanding is the farm plan doesn't necessarily come into play with what we're discussing this evening. It's more of an enforcement tool. When it deals with conservation, it deals with impacts on wetlands.
Okay, so a permit, does he have some kind of
So we
permit?
don't issue farm plans, those are through the, or approve them, those are through the Department of Agriculture. It can be, if they're claiming a zoning exemption through agriculture and they're not legitimately agriculture because they're farm plan, but that only affects as it applies to zoning, as to whether or not it's a use that's allowed. It does not necessarily, there's no independent enforceability of this unless we would have to say you're not entitled to the agricultural exemption and you have to remedy the zoning violation. Well, it's not a zoning violation per se to have the pile. It devolves more to the Board of Health. That doesn't mean that the Department of Agriculture may not have a concern with them in terms of their bona fides under the programs that they administer. We don't administer those programs. It's more just they have to show us if they, like let's say they wanted to build a structure that wasn't allowed by zoning and they were claiming an agricultural exemption. We might check on whether, let's see your farm plan and is it up to date or not. The pile is a separate issue. We are pursuing some angles through the earth removal, and we're trying to make those things match up. It has to be directly related to the pile of sand. So we're exploring those.
I recall that a permit was issued.
A
I
permit
don't-
No,
was
the
issued.
permit, I think, was for the other side of the bog, not
Okay,
the
right. Not
Andrews
this- not
side.
the
It was.
That's right, but if there were, and gravel removal is removal not on-site, it's
Right.
off-site.
Right.
So
Right.
the question is can we use a gravel removal permit for a different part of the site as leverage for
Right.
compliance here? Again, everything that we've touched has not been a perfect hand-in-glove solution from the limitations of what the municipality has. I think we're pursuing the best option we have now through health, and that's a heavy stick. When I get into court, I can get an injunction, but I can't get the injunction until we get them served, because it wouldn't be right for consideration by the
So-
court.
Can I just, under the earth removal, your operation standards, section 2A, has things in it, I underlined probably 4 or 5 things. He can't be closer than 200 feet to an existing public way. No excavation will approach neighbor lot lines closer to 500 feet, which I brought that up from the
So-
very beginning. I
so-
can't put a shed
No,
within so many
No,
feet
so
of my
Danielle,
property
that's
line.
what Jay's trying to say to you,
Right.
is we are looking at
Okay.
that. We have to be careful because we don't want this to be a hearing on the earth removal because we didn't post this meeting as such.
Okay.
But we definitely are pursuing whether he's been in compliance with the gravel removal permit that was granted to him. And not only do we have the bylaw, but we also have stipulations when we granted it to him. It was originally granted in 2014, and then he asked for 2 extensions. The last extension expired in August of 2016.
For a separate piece of property.
Yes.
A different, and so too was the permit issued, you're
Yeah.
saying, so.
Right, so that's my thing is he's operating without a permit.
Yes.
Right, I understand,
Okay.
but,
For gravel removal.
Right.
Now, to Jay's point, is this sand part of the gravel? We
Right.
don't know. We are trying to look at, I want to assure you that it is not our intention to kick this can down the road, okay? We're trying to be responsive. Some of us have just been made aware of this within the last week. And so, as we've become aware of it, we are digging into it and we are definitely taking this seriously. We're very concerned about the way that this is impacting neighbors. None of us would want to have that situation in our backyard, and we don't want you to have it in your backyard. But we have to be careful about the way we're proceeding, and we want to make sure that we're turning over every stone. So we definitely are looking at the gravel removal permit, whether that impacted, as Jay suggested, we're looking at the fire farm plan, the agricultural exemption. There's a lot of pieces that may not be the precise answer, and then obviously Matt's piece is complementary to everything that we've just discussed.
So I think the point that we're trying to make is that we are looking at it, we're doing to see what we can do about it, because obviously I don't believe there's anybody in this room that would deny the fact that it's not a good condition,
No.
it's not a way to live.
No,
to be-
but
live
how
next
much
to that.
longer do we have to live like
Well,
that?
I know, but we're operating within the legal limits that we
Right.
can do, right?
Right.
Is there anybody here present from Great Cedar? I think we invited them, didn't we?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure of that, because I wanted to make sure that they had their say if they were here as well. Don?
I just got a couple questions. In my life of working in sand pits, but how big is this pile roughly?
I guess probably about 5,000 yards. I think it's probably about 5,000 to 6,000 yards.
Yeah, but how many feet does that contain in the pile? Like, how many feet across the top is it, or the bottom?
Pretty straight.
You got a picture? Positively.
Mr., what's your
Thanks.
name?
So it's
sir?
like-
Clark.
52
Clark.
rows.
Like 100 by 100, or 50 by 100?
This is it?
or-
This is it.
I
This
can't
is
take my,
It's quite long.
It looks
like a
pretty
mason.
significant.
It's
Couple hundred
it's not
feet.
necessarily as high as it is so long.
Because I know one case that I had,
To the sand.
we had roughly the similar conditions, but we were in a sand pit. But
Yeah, This is blown.
they went to, well, you can go to Home Depot, or you can go to
Don, this is it.
Job,
That's the pile of sand. That's how big it is, how long it
Yep.
is. So that's pretty big. That's pretty
All right, but-
significant.
And you can see how it's going above the berm there.
yeah, but what we did is we bought some big of those big blue canvases. They were like 100 by 50. Put them on top with cement blocks and tied them to them.
Yeah.
So that it held the dust down.
Yeah.
You didn't have to mess with it. And as you dug out the material, you could either move the canvases one way or another. It didn't cost too much money. And I'm wondering if, just a suggestion like that to the company, that if they could do something of that nature.
So next time you
They
talk to
could do it
them,
tomorrow. And if they wanted to be good neighbors, maybe they will, maybe they won't, I don't know.
so Donnie's point, I think, is the next time you talk to them, maybe you could offer that as a suggestion. But
Yeah.
the reality is we need to press
Just
on
looking
this.
at the picture again,
I think they've made a good, I think you've made a great case.
it's
based on the
only
pictures.
blowing actually where the sand has been dug and disturbed.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
not as much in the top, well,
Well,
but
it is now, because that glue is gone, so it's
I
like.
know, but if you cover it with a big canvas,
Oh, that'd be great.
Perfect.
and just put cement blocks around, or old tires, just to
Put
stick the old
sandbags.
tires on.
Plenty of sand for sandbags, too.
And if you use it, you move it.
Well,
All right.
the thing is, and I agree with you.
I'm old fashioned, I did it.
No, if, Matt, if they need any advice or help, please have them consult Donnie, okay?
But in all seriousness, we do want a sense of urgency around this. We
Yes.
do want to try to resolve this, and I know, Mike, you know this,
Yeah.
and Jay, you know it, and Matt, you know it, and you know, hopefully, maybe loop in Lori for some of her expertise to the extent that it might be some conservation link or, you know, anything of that sort.
These are good pictures, and if you
Yeah.
could, if you make sure, if Matt has a copy of them, he can take them to this man and let them see
Yeah,
it
you
too.
can move on to it.
But let me, so I think I think the case has been made. I believe it has. And I know, Matt, I've seen the emails that you've sent, not emails, forgive me, the letters that you've sent. I've seen the letters from Bob Curran as well. So Jay, what can this board do to make sure that something gets done about this as quickly as possible?
Well, we're working on some due diligence on earth removal stuff, otherwise we're gonna be a resource for Matt.
Okay,
So we can set him up with a constable if he doesn't have one locally
Yeah.
that he can use, and we can get that served.
yep,
And then we'll give the time period there, and then we can prepare injunctive papers and go to court. Obviously, nothing ever happens as quickly as we'd like with a court,
Right.
but I think they'd be sensitive to health emergency and see if we can get
can we,
some kind of an injunction.
could I ask, maybe Matt, it sounds like you'd be driving the bus from this, from the Board of Health angle. Is there some sort of a plan you can come up with? So, you know, this date it goes to the constable, if provided you don't get any response. This date, goes to court, approximate, you know what I'm saying? Doesn't have to be exact, but just something so that these folks have something to gauge by on what the next step's gonna do. From who?
He's only the health agent, he doesn't know how long it's gonna take to go to court.
Yeah, no, but wait a minute, hold on, Jay just said he's gonna work with them.
Yeah,
Conjunction, so.
I think Jim, I think that what we would be looking for is, if they don't pick up this latest attempt at redelivery,
Yeah.
is that we package it maybe with a cover letter from us and give that with a constable with a drop dead date
Okay.
to get it done with, so that we have a good measuring stick. And if they don't do that, it takes us a few days to put together the right kind of legal papers, and then we gotta file something in court. Again, not always ideal, but,
So somebody did speak to me prior to this meeting, but it was unconfirmed items, and I'd rather not state what they are now. I'm not saying that it's true or false, and I can't say that it is either way. I'm hearing things like the man doesn't have enough people to do something or whatever. The fact is, even if that's true, the lines of communication should be kept open to you, Matt. They should be telling you exactly what their problems are, what they intend to do. There's no excuse for at least picking up the phone, calling you and letting you know what's going on, or what they think they
I
can
haven't
and can't
had
do.
any communication back from the owner, the property owner, or management, anyone from that side, a month.
Okay.
I mean, and I do just want to say, when they were originally looking for that gravel removal permit, quite a few commitments were made at that time. And I would also like to mention that I did ask Gene Sullivan whether they were up to date on their taxes, and they are not. They are 3 years behind. So I think that these are things that we want to
Yeah, but that's,
keep in mind.
we gotta be careful, because that's not relevant to this situation, okay? I do appreciate that, I do. We have to be careful on
we
this.
could revoke existing permits for that, but that requires.
But he doesn't have a permit, you're revoking nothing. I guess that's where my aggravation lies, is
I know.
how do you stop order on somebody who doesn't have permission to be doing what he's
Well,
doing?
so if we decide we're gonna pursue that, which Jay's gonna look into, then we technically have to have a hearing, and all of what you're saying may be valid, and it probably is, but we'd have to give him an opportunity to present
His
Right.
point.
his point of view.
And Jay, I'm sorry, that existing permit's for removing earth, isn't it?
Yes.
From a different
So, but that's
location.
not-
From a different location.
Right, but that's not,
If they were still making any money on it,
okay.
I mean, we hit them, we use it as leverage for a different reason. I mean, we gotta be really
Okay.
careful on what we do, but.
So this is what I'm hoping for. So I'm hoping to get some sort of a timeline, as best you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know what I'm saying? Something that we all know that we can go by.
And I'll
Because
know,
you know what I mean?
I'll know by Friday whether it was delivered or not. If not, it'll get sent back to me.
Yep.
I don't need to wait
Then I'll
to get it
communicate
back.
with them, we'll have a letter together by Monday or Tuesday, get it in the hands of a constable with a new drop dead date.
By Monday or
As
Tuesday.
soon as,
Okay.
soon as the constable can get it delivered, which we'll get a return receipt.
Okay, so then the
Within a day or
constable,
two. Then it's a 7-day, because the time order I gave was 7 days, which is.
so the constable hands it to him and he doesn't do something still
you
in
gotta
7
find him
days.
first, Jim.
Then what happens? That's my question.
Then we-
The constable hands him, 7 days go by and nothing happens, what's next?
Then it
Put
gets filed.
together a civil complaint
Okay.
for enforcement.
That's what I'm talking about,
Either the
right?
Superior Court or the housing court or whichever, but probably the Superior Court.
Okay. And then from there, and then you can even just leave it from there, because I know
Try
that
and
it could
get-
change
we try
based
and
on
get a
that.
preliminary injunction.
Yep,
That takes, you have to give them some limited short order of notice, so.
right,
It takes a couple weeks to put that process together.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I mean, again, nothing happens quickly in the courts, but.
I understand.
So then, Jay, if we do this, there won't be a need for a hearing. If a constable has to go see him, this bog owner, we won't need a hearing.
We're not gonna have a hearing.
For you, there is
There
no,
is no hearing.
there is no
Okay.
process under which you guys have a hearing, or there's no statutory process for that.
So then you're gonna go right to court then?
Well, again, the Board of Health is following the statutory prerequisites for us to go to court. They've issued an order under their jurisdiction, which they had to do to give me the authority to go to court. That's the precondition.
And, I'm sorry that it's gotten to this point, and I know this may seem simple. Have we tried to reach this gentleman by phone?
On several occasions.
Okay, just to
The
say,
line
like,
of communication, as Danielle indicated, I think you reached out to me, it wasn't February, but it wasn't that long after that. the line of communication was there for quite some time, and as Matt has indicated, it seems to have dried up. They did apply at one point at our request that glue, but after that, we had received, and I conveyed as much to her and the neighbors, we had received indication that they were going to use an awful lot of that sand for spring sanding, which apparently, if you don't have the right freeze over the winter, you can do something called spring sanding. That never came to fruition. We had received indications at least one point that they were going to go and they were going to separate and lower those that big mound into two smaller mounds. That never came to fruition. So that's when Danielle and the neighbors came to the meeting that Matt indicated, and they spoke to me, and we talked about whether or not, originally through zoning, through the building commissioner, and through the powers that we were aware of, we tried to reach out amicably and come up with a solution, and I think that led to the glue that was put on top of the sand. As things seemed to have broken down, then we looked a little bit more into it, and we came, at that point, into the knowledge that there was a course that the Board of Health could take. We started on that course, which Matt has pretty much surmised at this point. After the meeting, some of the residents came and spoke to me about the possibility of having an air quality test done, which obviously we don't have the wherewithal to do. So Matt and I did reach out to the DEP, had a conversation. They really weren't in a position to help us out with that. However, they gave us an awful lot of advice, as I think we indicated earlier, that they thought the path that the Board of Health was, and Matt was following was the correct one. But now, over the course of the last, I would say, week or so, we've come to the realization, and I don't want to go too deep into it, as Jay said, that there may be some sort of implications on the earth removal permit. So as we have been becoming more and more aware of any potential approaches, we've been exploring those and moving them forward. And as Jay indicated, and as I've mentioned to the residents, and I know they weren't happy to hear this, and I wasn't happy to say it, that there are limitations, and that a lot of this stuff, just by nature of the system, takes a while. And it's like I said, I know you didn't want to hear that, and I didn't want to have to say that, and it's of little relief to you at this point. But as we are becoming more and more aware of the different tools, since none of us, I think, have ever come across something like this before, we are pursuing them and trying to push them forward.
But Mike, I just want some clarity. So this pile of sand is a result of the area that they were permitted to dig in?
I can't say for sure. I think that the area that they dug in, they ended up, as I think one of the residents mentioned, I think that they silted that. They, what's the word I'm looking for? Screened it, thank you. And this pile of sand is as a result of that digging. So there may be that nexus. I don't know, and Jay's looking into that in terms of...
But as far as we know, there's no permits of any kind, right?
Well, the permit expired in 16, but I don't think there's been any investigation as to whether or not they're still actively using the permit to remove gravel. So just the fact that the permit expired, again, we can't, and nobody's really been out to validate this one way or the other, but we can't necessarily say that they're in violation, because they very well may be done removing the dirt, removing the gravel, and, the resultant pile is a resultant pile, but the permit doesn't, as far as I know, and Jay's going to look into it, but the permit does not, I think, have any authority over the pile that was created as a result of the permit.
I got you.
If
No,
that sounds
it doesn't,
clear.
but we did specify, when I say we, I mean the prior Board of Selectmen, did specify when they granted the gravel removal permit, in addition to the bylaw, they specified that the applicant was going to provide a plan that shows the stormwater drainage, final grades, proposed vegetation of trees planted during restoration, that they provide a topographical plan that demonstrates defined work area, that they wouldn't remove any more than 2,600 cubic yards of material, and then at the end of the gravel removal operation, they were supposed to slope and seed the area property 3-to-1 slope. I have no idea what that means.
And I think we're going to look into that. I just don't want you to go too far afield.
No, that's all I'm going to say. So what I want to know is, and I know I sent this question to you, is have we verified whether that's been done? And you don't need to answer that question
Yeah.
tonight. I just want to know that
Yep.
we verified that, because it could be a contributing factor to what these guys are experiencing if they haven't mitigated, done erosion control and all the
Yes.
other stuff.
Yes, and as you indicated, and again, I don't want to go too far afield with this because I don't want to get into a situation where we're touching upon things that should be held in a hearing. But as you indicated, we need to figure out, because I don't think that the town has really had something like this happen before, who the person would be to go and do that sort of inspection. Obviously, the Board of Selectmen, the issuer of the permit does not have the ability, in and of itself, the staff that the board
Exactly.
oversees to go, I can't go out and do that because I
We
don't know
may
what I'm
have to
doing.
hire our own consultant to look.
If
at
we don't
that.
have somebody in-house. But again, that's something that needs to be investigated as to whether or not that's the building inspector has the ability to do that, whether the conservation agent slash planning board agent the town planner can do something like that. Questions and thoughts, reasonable thoughts that have just come up within the last couple of days.
So the best approach to this is to go from the Board of Health issue, right? Because if it becomes a health issue, that oversees everything and anything out there. You know what I'm saying? Ed, you know me well enough that you can pick up a phone, and if you need to, call me. I'd like to know where we are with this from your perspective, okay?
That's the most solid foothold.
Maureen Watson, I'm 114 Rosewood Drive, literally my backyard is the sand pit. Come on by.
Okay.
Anytime.
No, I believe you. Look at the
You are
pictures.
welcome to walk.
Yeah.
Matt's been out there, he's
No.
stood in my backyard and looked down, and he sees that he's been there, so you're all welcome. Anytime you wanna come by.
I look at this picture, I look at these pictures, and it's
I've
very clear.
submitted
you know?
videos,
Yeah.
videos of the sand blowing while I'm sitting on my deck, watching the
Watching the
sand blowing.
swirls go, yeah. I believe it, I did.
I've given you pictures of the sand on my deck on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I think Matt's taken the best approach.
Yes.
Jay's right, it's gonna take a long time to go through the government process, we all know that, right? You guys know that. It's important for you to know too, that we're trying. We've got the right people in the right places, and they're doing what they can, as far as they can. The fastest way to get this done would be to get a hold of these guys and let them be accountable to do something about it, right? That would be the fastest way.
We've named easy
talked to
solutions. Put a tarp over it, cut
Yeah.
the thing in half with a bulldozer.
Yeah,
It's
right.
an hour job.
Yeah.
you know?
We've all talked to him,
It's
Brian
easy.
Watson, 114 Rosewood
Brian.
Drive, we've all talked to him at one time or another. I mean, you talk about the digging.
Yeah.
I mean, when they started digging it, as Maureen said, they stopped 2 feet from our property line.
Wow.
And whereas one time, as Danielle said, we used to be able to go out there and walk.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a straight drop.
right.
And so they went from where our property is all the way across to where Ron Clark lives. And at one time, there were beyond that.
Aren't they supposed to be 100 feet?
There's supposed to be a 3-to-1 slope there, I think.
Yes, there is.
It's not, I can tell you. I and I'm not an expert, but just looking at it
That's
from
what
our
I had
side,
to do every
it's
time I
not
worked in a
3-to-1
pit.
slope. It's not.
It's a cliff.
Exactly, it's a cliff.
They have a small grandchild.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, we ever got loose.
You do.
All I can promise you is that we're doing what we can on our side. I promise you that. I'll try to follow up on it as well, each week with Mike. And we'll get something, we'll make sure that Jay works with Matt to get something done.
Somebody had it, I don't know.
What?
Where did the picture of the specs?
Everything, they're right
Got it
here.
down there.
It's over there.
Okay.
But my point to you guys is, we should try both ends. Obviously, we should go this way, but we should also continue to try to contact them to get some relief fast, because it's not right for you guys to wait until spring for them to start using that sand and.
He
you know.
has enough sand out
They got
there
10
to
years.
do every bog on the South Shore.
Sure.
He owns
Because they use
several blocks.
an inch
and
of sand.
That sand there is not for those
Well, how long
blocks.
is this
He
pile?
stored, he dug all that sand out behind our house,
Couple hundred
he
feet.
sifted it, he left it
They
there,
got
and
themselves
he's using it for his
250
other
by 100
property.
foot canvases.
If he's removing it, he's.
Yeah, we can surmise that,
Excuse me, Maureen. Mrs. Watson, it's too bad we didn't know someone that worked in Halifax
And so that's
at one
about
point or another, and
200
that
feet,
could
you
actually
say?
go to 90 Walnut Street in Halifax.
With-
Is there a
with the
building?
top of that,
No, there's a palace.
canvases.
Yeah.
He does have buildings off to the
That's a
right of his
house.
house, right? Doesn't he have
But there's nobody there.
I don't know. We've not tried to approach him. That's not our.
I wouldn't.
But that's what, in the beginning when Mr.
Yeah.
McHugh said, he claims it's gonna be not cost effective for him to do, I came right out and told him, I have no sympathy for the man who built a palace in Halifax. He has more money than any of us in this room put together. He's not being a good neighbor. He's not being a good human, you know?
Well,
If you say you're gonna do something, your word is everything, and you do it.
And I think we're in agreement with you, you know, we're not encouraging anybody to go out to anybody's property to do anything of that nature. I think the way you're handling it now is the appropriate and right way to go, okay? Continue to press, you know, this board, our health agent, town administrator, for a status, even if it's a weekly status. Where are we on this, okay? Honestly, guys, after looking at the pictures, you know, you have my deepest sympathy on this. I understand completely. I do. And I really will do everything I can. I'll ask Mike for a status each week. I meet with him on Fridays. I talk with him almost every other day, find out where we are with this,
Can I
okay?
ask then, just moving forward, is there some additional bylaw this town can go? And I know I've asked this of Mike, and he keeps telling me agricultural, and I have been in touch with Josh Cutler's office. If this is a state or federally funded law that was written way back when your nearest neighbor was 2 miles down the street, then it needs to be adjusted, and the towns also have to be able to have some right and some say in what goes in their backyard. But as I read the earth removal, and I'm assuming he's supposed to, agricultural and not, follow these procedures,
yes.
he's not following them. So I want to see us as a town, if we have these rules on the books, we need to be following them.
Right.
No, totally agreed. Ours, I mean, I'm not a complete expert, although I've done a lot of looking into this since I found out about it on Friday. But ours is somewhat generic, but I did notice like Middleborough and some of the other towns that have got cranberry bogs in them have much more specific gravel removal regulations that really get into the nitty gritty, if you will. So we may want to look at that. One of the things we've got to look at generally is our bylaws, which is a Herculean task.
Right.
But maybe we would prioritize this as one of the ones that we could take another look at.
I think, Mike, you are looking into this issue, right? Is that right? Mike?
Yeah, yes.
This particular issue with
In
regard to
terms of any
bylaw?
potential bylaw, yeah, Jay and I have been talking about that.
Okay.
And again.
So I promise you
Again,
they'll look into it.
not to pass the buck, but as Danielle mentions, you know, there are certain state and federal regulations that obviate whatever the town can do, but we have started taking a look to see if there's any possibility. I can't guarantee that there is, though.
Right.
But certainly, as, you know, I've indicated, you know, we've been following up on, you know, whatever suggestions the neighbors have been giving to us, as well as making our own suggestions, and you know, we're gonna look at whether or not there's any relief that can be sought through a new bylaw, but again,
I mean, the bylaw is all
I don't want anybody to get their hopes up too much.
But the health, from a health perspective. That takes a higher priority than
Yeah.
anything else. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I like your optimism, but when I left the Board of Health meeting last week or the week before, I left there deflated because I wasn't getting that from Matthew, that this is a route that will actually get us any results.
If it is
So-
a health issue, that becomes
I
a
agree
priority
with
one
that,
issue.
but
item,
Our council
absolutely.
is telling us that he thinks that that's
Okay.
our best
Board of Health
route
didn't
right now
mention
to
that warm and
pursue.
fuzzy, so,
So, yep.
perfect.
So hopefully we'll have Mike provide you a status. I know that we have your email on file, and I saw an email go from Matthew to you, Danielle, right? In June?
Yeah, we're all, everybody, the whole
You
neighborhood's on
copied
the
everybody
email.
else on it?
Yep.
Okay.
So we're all on the same
I,
page.
again, my heart goes to you guys. I think all of us feel for you on this, all right?
Thank you, we
Thank you,
appreciate your
Chairman.
time.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify a statement that I made earlier with 90 Walnut Street.
Sure.
In Halifax, that was just to help out the constable.
I'm sure he knows the addresses, Jim,
Okay.
but yeah.
Just wanted to make
Thanks.
sure.
Maybe you can go with him to watch, but that's about it, I think, yeah.
We're gonna leave those.
Thank you, guys. I
Thank you.
appreciate you coming in and letting us know, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it. Jay, as always. I really would like to, I think all of us have made the point, we'd really like something done on this. Okay, moving on in our agenda item. We have a vote to approve and vote to accept donations, Newcomb Tree Service. It's item 2 on your iPads. Newcomb Tree under Kenny Mitchell is manager, right, Kenny? Aren't you the manager, head man, big guy, big cheese? He delivered 20 yards of loam at $35 per yard.
Mulch.
Forgive me, not loam, mulch. Retail price of being $35. What was the total cost, do you know?
I think it was
35.
Yeah, I
700,
didn't do the math, okay, so.
Yeah, 700, right.
Right. So I would entertain a motion to
So moved.
accept the donation
Second.
offered by, okay. Now we're short, one selectman and one town administrator at this time.
Well, we gotta
But I
wait
think we
then.
can still vote, and even though Kenny has offered to, you want to abstain?
Yeah, I was,
Okay. I think it's
So you
okay.
need 3 votes?
We need at least maximum
I don't
three.
think this is a highly controversial item. It's already been delivered, hasn't it?
Yes.
It has.
How are we
It's
going
already
to
spread.
remove it?
It's already spread. Oh, it should have been about $700, yeah, okay.
No,
I
we
see.
do it every year, and we're happy to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so motion to accept the donation as read,
Second.
seconded, has been
All in
made and
favor?
seconded?
Then,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those ag-
Three
those
zero
against?
zero.
Down to appointments, I got here at 7
I
o'clock.
promise you, we'll move on to the appointments right after this acceptance. Next,
Didn't think it would take
Abstain?
2 hours
One
before
abstain.
I'm here.
one non-vote. I promise you, okay? I'm taking them in the order of which they have. I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll take it out of order. How's
Yeah.
that sound? Okay.
What's your name, ma'am?
Margaret Westfield. I
Okay,
came at 7 o'clock,
yeah.
and here it is, and I feel bad for the people that broke, don't get me wrong, but I figured I'd be in and out, home with my cup
Yeah.
of tea.
I figured I'd be home by now.
I know, me too, Dawn.
you were delusional. I told you that at 7.
I can appreciate that, Margaret. Miss Westfield, thank you. So I'm going to move off into the agenda. Thank you. Do we have Mr. Danner here as well?
I don't see Mr. Danner.
Okay, and we don't have Iris Morway here either, is that correct? All right, so you're the only one. I'm sorry, I didn't, I thought you were actually part of the Rosewood
No.
folks. I
I'd
apologize.
like to make a motion to, I'd like to make a motion to, what's she gonna do?
Appoint Margaret
Point
Westfield
Margaret Westfield to,
Appoint Margaret Westfield
To the Education
Education
to the
Committee.
Education Committee.
for a term to expire 6/20.
you have to,
30, 20.
Second.
Thank you.
motion has been made and seconded. I see that you've applied, applicant, thank you very much for applying, appreciate it, and for showing up tonight. Honestly, I thought you were from the Rosewood group, so. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against, and
Thank you,
Jim,
Margaret.
Jim is just a non-vote, so it's 4-0, Mike, on that, okay?
On Margaret
Oh, well,
Westfield.
yeah,
And Margaret
And we,
Westfield.
we also just voted to accept the donation from Newcomb's
Yeah.
okay.
as well.
He can watch it
Well,
on
what-
video.
what-
You can watch on video.
That's what I'll end up
Yeah,
doing.
we'll watch it on the video.
Oh, okay.
Night, Margaret.
Margaret,
Thank you,
you.
Margaret.
Now, someone will get in touch with me, right? Is that-
Yes, they
Yeah,
will.
you'll get a
yeah.
letter.
All right, thank you.
Should we do the other two while we're right there?
Let's do the other two as read.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Wilbur Danner to the McCon School Transition Committee, term to expire 6/30/2018.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion?
No, I'm just grateful that he's stepping up, and I hope other people will, because we need 3 citizens at large, so.
Absolutely.
To save time in my, my report, I was going to mention I had 2 more applications come
I
in.
knew you were going to, because
Yes,
people had
they
reached out to
indicated
me,
as
but,
much, so-
yeah.
We also, it's important to know that Mr. Danner was on the building committee from 2000 to 2005,
School committee.
the school committee for 15 years,
Yeah.
chairman of the board of assessments for 11 years. Wow,
it's
that's
six.
terrific,
Bad?
so.
You're bad?
No,
Oh.
it's.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Danner is in on the transition committee.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Iris Morway, Education Committee, term to expire 6/30/2019.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? Iris, for many of the residents out there, serves to the various islands, traffic
Yes.
islands.
She beautifies.
She does
Hanson.
the flowers. She should be recognized for that. She does a lot. On Sunday mornings at 7 a.m., 6 a.m., she's out there watering the flowers, taking care of
In
them.
front of Town Hall.
In
I
front of
saw her
Town
the other
Hall.
day.
She does all different islands.
5827.
So kudos to her. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of appointing Iris
Aye.
Morway?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
That's all right. Do you want to vote to appoint
It was
Iris
appointing
Morway?
Iris Morway to the
Absolutely.
Education Committee.
Okay, just here your vote is
Can we
aye.
do those 2 resignations earlier right there?
I'll do
Go
those
back up
two,
to the
yep.
top.
Yep. 5-0, I'm going to say, because Jim just said he would vote for her, absolutely. We have 2 resignations that we need to accept, items 7 and 8.
With regret.
With regret. The first one is from Mr. Michael Wojcik from the FinCom Committee. It is with deep regret I'm resigning from the Finance Committee effective July 31st, 2017. The sole cause of me resigning is due to the amount of travel. The last 6 years, he's learned so much from the town and has met some great people in the process, and he wanted to thank the current and prior members of the FinCom, Selectmen, and town administrators. I'd like to specifically thank Steve McKinnon and Steve Amico for encouraging me to join. I'd also like to thank Mary Todd and Chief Thompson for their help during my time on the committee. He goes on to say a lot of accolades, that he really does appreciate this. It wasn't an easy decision for him, but he hopes to serve again soon.
But I really like his second to last
Second last
paragraph there.
yeah. Hanson is a great town and has great people in it. I encourage others to not backseat quarterback and not act as a backseat quarterback and get involved in many committees the town has. Joining committees like FinCom allows people to fully understand how the entire town works. The town can only be successful if people get behind it and unite as one group.
Well said.
So moved.
With
Second.
With regret, yeah.
Absolutely. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Next item we have is the resignation of Mr. William Lonergan as a fence viewer, and that is item 8. And he states that he's received, apparently we sent him a letter reminding him of the fence viewer position, and he stated that he was no longer interested in volunteering for that position. So I'd entertain a motion to accept Mr. Lonergan's resignation.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we'll just,
Why
we'll give it to
bother, right,
the,
Jim, there's no way we're gonna get a motion.
we'll give it to the older guy. Donnie, you win. I'm sorry, what? After we vote this one, okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. We have, and I thought you guys were part of Rosewood also. Are you, what item are you guys on the agenda? Ah, okay, we'll take that up now then, okay? I'm sorry, I should have figured out who the players were first before we started. I thought not, but okay. So we have a request, I'm looking at it on our agenda, which is the item 4, right? And it states that they're looking for a junk dealer, junk collector license, is that correct? From the First Baptist Church of Hanson. It's a 501c3 charity. We're trying to pay our bills with the sale of used clean clothing and secondhand articles, including antiques. Store will be open from Saturday, 10 a.m., this coming Saturday, correct?
Every
No,
Saturday.
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday and Monday?
From 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we're located in the church basement, right? Church is ADA compliant, right? Excellent.
And they're trying to open mid-August?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to accept the request for a junk dealer, junk collector
So
license.
moved.
Would you guys like to speak
Second.
first?
No, I just, I found out that it should be open like 10 to 2 on Saturday, instead of 10 to 1, if that's.
Okay, 10 to 2 on Saturdays for the
10
people
to
out
2?
there. Gotcha. Open it, so we get an extra hour from what's been printed here. All right, cool. Thank you, ladies, for coming and for doing this. This sounds like a great
And the
idea.
other thing, it's already been signed off by the building department, the board of health, and the fire chief, so
Fire
I
chief,
like
that's
that.
Just one other thing, Jim, I think it may be a typo. So I understand you're saying 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., ma'am, and then it says and Monday, 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. I assume you meant 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.? Okay, just for clarification.
I said 6 to 8.
Right.
But I picked it up. Yeah,
It
you're right,
said
it's still
and.
there. I just
Okay.
skipped it over.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured,
So I think it was moved and seconded.
Yes, it
Because
was.
they'd have to, open up for a minute, close, and then wait 2 hours, open up again?
Okay, this is a fee waiver request, and the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Against? No, nothing, nobody for against or denial. So you have it. Thank you very much.
And we apologize for making you sit there.
Yeah, we're sorry that we tortured you
It's
that
been
way.
interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know,
That's how we get people to stay at the meeting. We
Yeah.
just-
Well,
Yeah.
neither one of us are from Hanson, so.
At least you don't have a sand pile behind the church.
yeah, there you go.
If you want to come by tomorrow, I can give it to you, or I can throw it in the mail, whatever.
All right, we're moving
Why don't I
right
just
along.
mail it? You're not going to open it up till August anyway. I'll put it
Next
in.
item under new business is item 3, change of DBA, and that stands for business as usual.
Doing business as.
Business as.
Yep.
So it looks like we have a request for alcoholic beverage license where the Tedeschi's up at 12 Montponset Street is changing to a 7-Eleven. I would entertain a motion to accept the
Name change of
the name
liquor
change
license.
and for the liquor license as stated.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and second. Further discussion?
Well, I would just like to point out that it appears to be happening
Quick?
anyway,
Yeah,
and that they didn't ask us in advance, but I know it's purely procedural.
yeah. We want, I think, was it Ann? Who was part of that, who owned this before? I think it was Ann.
Tedeschi.
Yeah, Tedeschi
This
owned
one's
it.
owned by Tedeschi, it wasn't private.
Yeah, no,
They've actually been 7-Eleven for a long time.
Yes.
a
Yeah.
while now, I guess, yeah. Okay, so, motion has been made and seconded, is that correct, or no?
Yes.
Did I miss
Yes,
that, right?
yep.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, Mike. Item, next on our agenda, we have the town administrator's report. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As usual, I'll try to be brief.
That's enough.
We are, as I indicated at the last meeting, I've reached out to the various boards and committees that we have an interest in speaking with jointly in terms of possible consolidation. I've heard back from 2 of those boards. I have not heard back from 2 or 3 of the others. I resent that request today to the boards that I've not heard back from, so I will continue to update the board and move forward in terms of trying to put together a time and a place that would make sense not only for the committees but for our representative from the Board of Selectmen. So I'll continue to update the board as I move forward on that.
Laura is our
Yes.
representative, right, Laura? Okay,
A willing representative.
making sure.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
I'm happy to report that concurrent to this particular meeting, the Conservation Commission meeting upstairs was being recorded for rebroadcast on cable. It's the first of the appointed boards to receive the little bit of instruction that they need and to
Start
make
recording the
use.
meeting.
Excuse me?
Start recording the meeting, right?
Yes.
Great job.
So we've got 2 cameras and 2 tripods here in the Selectman's office that we will distribute as needed to the various boards and committees that are appointed and to whom we can request that such be done. It will progress through, obviously, to all the other boards over which we have purview. I have not heard back from FinCom, from the Planning Board, from and any of the other elected boards, because obviously it's up to them. We can't tell them. We're encouraging them, but if they need to choose whether they wish to do that or not. I know that the Water Commission did film one of its last meetings with an old VHS recorder. We are providing them with a 3rd camera and tripod, which they should have for their next meeting, so that, so we can convert and actually have, without as much problem, have those particular meetings televised as well. It's actually not even it's not even a disc anymore. It's just a teeny little,
Yeah.
thumb drive sort of thing, card.
VHS, they have VHS.
Yeah,
You guys take it out of
it
the
actually
box,
looked
or-
brand new.
Wow.
It looked brand new.
Wow, Donnie.
The water department, you're recording VHS.
Yeah.
Now, Mike,
Took me back.
I think that's great progress. I'm wondering, it's great that we're recording it, but accessibility is really about it being put out there.
Oh, no, there's a
And
procedure
so
by which.
How
yeah.
quickly are they gonna be getting that out on the YouTube
Within-
channel?
A week afterwards.
Okay. And do we know how long they're gonna keep it out there?
I
Because
think
that's
it's-
been a problem in
I
the past. They seem to remove it like, say, a year and 18 months or so.
I can look
afterwards.
into that. I thought that stuff was pretty much archived and put out there in
It may be
perpetuity.
archived, but it's not accessible on the YouTube.
Okay, yeah, I can look into that. I haven't been here 18 months, so I haven't experienced it yet.
That's cool. So the cable broadcast meetings, Mike.
Yep. Okay.
Moving in the right direction.
Moving right along.
Yes, we have.
It is generally good business practice in a town on occasion to put out an RFP, which we don't technically need to do, but again, it's good business practice for any of the professional services that the town uses, to include engineering, legal, and other. Those particular services are exempt from the 30B requirements because they are professional services. However, my experience has been in past towns that, again, every so often you want to put a request out there for proposals to make sure that you're still keeping up with what the going rates are. I plan on going forward and doing that. As I mentioned, there's legal, there's engineering, there may be a couple others that I'll probably do that with. That doesn't mean that we have any dissatisfaction with the services we're receiving from the companies that we currently employ. However, it's just good business to go out there and see what it is. And at the end of the day, we may end up staying with the ones that we're employing right now. But I wanted to let the board know that I was moving forward with that it was my intention for quite some time to go in that direction. Again, just as a matter of course. So I'll update the board as I move forward on that, and I'll let the board know if I come across any other, any other areas that I think that we should put out there and just take a look at, so.
Yeah, I think that's a good sound business practice
Yes.
for two reasons. It lets folks know that they can't really take us for granted, that
Yep.
we're not gonna always be locked into them, and they kinda need to keep treating us as a priority. And also, it lets them know that we need to get the best that they've got to offer, so if they're offering new things to new clients, we wanna see those, and also that we're gonna be looking at their pricing. So I think it's generally a good practice, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing it.
Yep, so I'll update the board as I move forward on that, hopefully within the next several weeks.
Mike, would it be possible to see what the companies or the people that we have now, how long they've been
Yeah.
with the town?
Oh, certainly, yeah, some have been here longer than others, and, they all didn't start at the same time, but pretty much all of them have been here for an appreciable amount of time. So it's just, again, and I actually had a conversation with at least one of the entities that would fall under this, and they completely understood that it's just a good business practice, and it's something that you need to do every once in a while, so.
Mike, could I ask a question? Getting back to the cable contract.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Cable broadcasting.
yeah.
Cable contract.
Yeah.
I know this might be considered under miscellaneous updates. Where are we with that? Last I heard, we were talking Eric, right?
Yes.
And we're still waiting to hear?
Yes.
I know you've had other priorities.
No,
shifting,
but I've asked on a couple of occasions, up
Okay.
until when we last spoke, I think, the end of last week.
Do we have any idea or any feedback what we're waiting? Because I know that they're supposed to promise some things during the contract.
I've indicated that, without getting too deep into it, I indicated that at a minimum, I would like to have those documents
Yeah.
that were requested through the matrix, and that at this point, they would go no further than be with the Board of Selectmen, and we could have a discussion as to whether there'd be any additional disbursement of those particular documents, and it's.
Come back, okay. I'd like to, if we could, Mike, I have Friday off, maybe you and myself and Eric can sit down for an hour, just go over some things.
Yeah.
And if not this Friday, certainly next.
Yeah, no,
okay?
if he's available, I'm certainly available.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, and under the catch-all, I had a meeting with the library trustees in terms of moving forward and looking at a consultant for the potential expansion or relocation. I continue to work with them. They've got their own funding to do all of that through some various grants and trusts. Just to let the board know of that my office's involvement and continual involvement and pleasure to be involved with that sort of a project. Had a meeting last Friday or the Friday prior, I don't remember, with a representative from Senator Warren's office over in Duxbury. It was with the town of Duxbury and with the town of Pembroke. Representative Cutler put it together, basically to touch base with the senator's office to see if there's anything that the town of Hanson and the other two towns needed from the senator's office. And for the most part, I just pounded on economic development, any grants out there in terms of how we could do some redevelopment down around Main Street, down around the train station, any sort of help that they can give us. So I think that's the main priority, well, not the main priority of the board or my office, but I think that's the main thing that particular office can do to help us. So they're looking into those sorts of things. I forget the gentleman's last name, but his first name was Connor. Very, very, very nice, very accommodating. He's already gotten back to me with some things, provided me with some information that we're sharing back and forth, so.
And similarly, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Josh got appointed to a committee, I want to roughly call it as a state representative of economic development. He had a big event last week, invited various businesses. So I'm hoping we can leverage the
Yes.
fact that our state representative is involved in economic development and utilize his contacts and
Yes.
get him to help us with our little Main Street project.
Yes, he's been as helpful as he can be up to this point, and I don't disagree that he can probably be even more helpful in that particular position, but my hat goes off to Josh. He's always there when I call. His office is always there in terms of trying to help us out. Sometimes they can't, which obviously there are limitations, but it's certainly not for lack of trying, so. We enjoy a very good relationship with his office.
Mike, I'm not sure if you can cover this under miscellaneous, but I did get a question from a constituent about where we stood on the sale of the town-owned properties.
Well, as it so happens, and a couple other board members actually mentioned that to me today, too, before the meeting, I reached out the end of last week, and if the board recalls, the board voted to allow me to execute a contract for the auctioneer, dependent upon our attorney's recommendation to sign said document. I conveyed to her after the meeting, actually I think even that night, I conveyed to her the fact that I had been given the permission by the board to move forward once she was ready with the document. I reached out to her actually yesterday, knowing that, and I had it on my list of things to do, knowing that the board and myself are interested in moving forward, asking her if that document is ready, if she's got something that she's comfortable with, and I haven't heard back yet. I'll continue to press her, but I obviously don't want to execute anything that not town council, I call her special counsel.
So she's our tax title attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, so we've had her for quite some time, and she comes very highly recommended, has done an awful lot of good work, both in the assessor's office and in the treasurer collector's office. So this is, as I think, it might have been before the new board formed, but I think I indicated to the board at the time that this is the first time in anyone's memory that the town of Hanson has done such an auction of tax title property. So there's a little bit of a learning curve. We continue to push forward with it. Like with most things, as we discussed today with the residents of Rosewood, sometimes things take a lot longer than we'd like them to. So we continue to push forward on it.
Okay,
And hopefully, within the next day or so, she'll come back with something that the board has authorized me, easy for me to say, authorized me to sign, and we'll be off and running.
Yeah, because I think we probably all are in agreement. We'd like to get this done while the weather's still decent.
Yes.
We don't want to be doing this in the winter.
Yeah, I think once the
Yeah.
contract is signed, it's a real quick turnaround, in terms of dates and posting and all of that, so.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, like I said, it wasn't out of place, Laura, I was gonna mention it
Okay.
in my miscellaneous. I think that might be it. Oh, just as a matter of, information, the board at the last meeting or the previous meeting declared some surplus materials up at the camp. I did refer those over to the auctioneer that's approved by the state to see if we could get any money for the stuff that was surplused. And as a matter of fact, we got about $2,500 for the whole total.
Nice.
So it was just stuff that if we hadn't done that, probably would have
Well,
just
that's going
thrown
to
it
general fund or
away.
to the enterprise fund?
It's a good question. I think it has to go into the general fund.
Okay.
I think any unanticipated revenues have to go into the general fund.
Thank you.
Put it in the Plymouth County.
Huh?
Put it in the Plymouth
Oh,
County.
Thank you, Mike.
The last thing that I'll touch upon, and I know there are members of this board that are very interested in this, I did receive a favorable quote to replace the ramp at the food pantry. I will be putting together a little contract that I'll execute in the next couple of days, and we will move forward on the replacement of that ramp. That particular contractor will also give us a quote on fixing the windows. We will obviously seek other quotes, but he's also interested in doing that sort of work. They're not the same project technically, so it's not bid splitting by asking him to give us a different quote. So I think the most important thing is we would all agree, especially since the state has reminded us of it on a couple of occasions, that we got to make sure that that's ADA compliant. So we've got the money, we've got the person in place. All I need to do is write up the contract in the next day or so, and we'll be
Now,
good to go.
we're not violent, like, I know when they originally wrote to us, it was before I was on the board, but when they wrote to us, I think it got drop kicked. We didn't get timely notice for whatever reason. It was sort of past the date they had asked us to respond. But I know Bob Curran felt comfortable responding, saying like, hey, we're on it,
Yeah.
we're gonna be responsive. We're not in violation
No,
of
we're
any
good with
deadline
that.
at this point.
No, no,
Okay.
we're good with
All
that.
right.
Bob has stayed on top of that.
I remember him at the one of the meetings he spoke to about that
Yeah.
point.
He wasn't worried about it.
So,
And they are generally, I mean, they understand the constraints under which towns work, and the fact that we've been showing a good faith effort in moving forward, and it was something that within the last couple of weeks, I started pushing back on to get it moving forward. The money was technically put in a supplemental article at the special town meeting, so it was part of last year's budget. It wasn't an article that would just stay out there, so we proactively encumbered that money, so we are still able to use it in this current fiscal year, so. Well, and again, hopefully, in a very timely fashion, we'll get a quote on fixing the windows as well, and we'll tie all that up. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, I believe.
thank you. Mr. Edgehill.
Rich Edgehill, 115 South Street. Because of the town administrator report on the cable broadcasting, I'm glad to see it. The camera you have down at the water department's a brand-new camera, VHS, still works. All he has to do is transfer and it had good reception, so I wouldn't get rid of it.
Oh, it works fine, but we can't get the tapes.
Yes, well, I think you can. I could-
Well, I tried all last week to get it different places.
Well,
I
I
even
can
went up to the
investigate that
studio.
for you, because I hate that, I put that camera there.
Listen, I agree with you
No, but
wholeheartedly.
I just give you the specs on it. Great camera, give you good broadcast, good reception.
I agree.
Let me check on the VHS tapes, because I used to have to get them.
Okay.
I don't know, Rich.
I went up
think-
there last week to try to get some,
Donnie,
they said they can't get
If I
them.
were you guys, maybe what we ought to do is leave it in the box, wait another 10 years, and sell it for more money than what we have it
It'd be
for.
worth it. I've got
That's
to-
true, it's an
It's gonna be an antique.
It is.
I can hide it in the closet up there.
Well, it looked brand new.
It is. That was the best camera, and I put it down a water department. In regards to the discussion on cable, number one, under the open meeting law, all elected boards all boards can be taped and broadcasted. You just have to have someone step up to the plate to do it.
This is the memorial trustees?
Now, basically what it's telling you is the last election, that gives you the numbers of the people that voted, somewhat. You got 6,500 people per se, registered voters in the town,
Okay.
and you have a fifth of the people coming out to vote. What I'm getting at, if you really inspire this broadcasting,
Yeah.
it may,
Make it more people out
if you
to
don't
vote.
advertise, you can't make money, all right? And basically, I tell you that the more information you give to conservation, board of health, planning, zoning, if you cover those boards, you're gonna maybe get participation from the public.
I hope so, Rich. We're doing everything, even with the electronic board and the PTO board that we have out there.
The only thing I disagree with that, because the more you publicize it on TV, people are gonna stay home to watch it and they won't come in.
Well, look at the room
But
now.
they'll be
Yeah.
engaged. No, but I think what he's saying is regardless of whether they're physically here, they'll be engaged.
Yes.
Because they'll be keeping track. I
Right.
think, I hear what you're saying, and yes, we all bemoan the fact that we can't get people to volunteer for committees. We want them to be here and involved and informed, and I know we've all had situations where we're talking to people about warrant articles and people don't have any idea what is in the warrant. They're not going to town meeting. I echo what you're saying. I think part of why this particular town election was so low, we really didn't have any issues. There really weren't any issues. There were no hot burning issues. So
So that's our fault. We should have more hot burning.
well, I'm
issues.
not saying that. We could create some,
Actually, we can blame Mary because she likes it nice and quiet. Actually, I'm with her too, because,
Well, if you just broadcast these meetings, I think you'll get more participation if people realize what's going on in your town.
yeah.
So that's basically what I wanted to tell you. And as far as elected boards, if I ask an elected person and I vote for it, said, hey, how come you're not taking votes? Oh, we don't want to. It's like, that's not good enough. I did it for, 10 years?
No, I know.
And just put the cameras in there. I never get paid. In fact, it was my equipment, my film, I volunteered it all, just to get the word out there. And it's like, what's the problem? I think I started in 2004.
Well, we saw you and Sharon tape meetings, many meetings out there, absolutely.
I take the credit for her, and actually, she does a lot of the work. That's all, I just
She
wanted to
said-
bring up just how important it is.
Well, to Rich's point too, basically, you just repeated the memo that I sent out. I couldn't agree with you more.
And I didn't even read it.
When I put the memo together, I basically said everything that you just said, because I agree with you, that it could, first of all, it exposes the townspeople, should they choose to watch, to boards that they may never know even existed, and it may inspire them to get involved and actually join some of these boards. So as far as I'm concerned, you're spot on.
We need new faces. Tracy, please, whatever you can put in the paper to help us, we need new people to get more involved in our government.
They don't know how I do it.
It's all on you, Tracy.
It's all on you, Trace.
No pressure.
I think she might be
Is she
frozen.
awake? Thank you very much, Rich. I appreciate the.
almost done.
the-
All right, Red
all right,
Cross.
We're there now, so,
It's frozen, but so am I.
we actually have the American Red Cross request to waive a rental fee at Camp Quaney Lodge. That's item 5 on your iPads.
Yep.
Okay? So I think we all know the Red Cross is an official organization. They're asking for a waiver. The date and hours of the event are August 11th and November 11th for about 5 hours. We need an hour for setup before the drive, and actual drive hours have not been decided, it
There's
says.
2 different dates.
No, it's August. August 11th.
And 11.
And November 11th, I said. Didn't I say 11/11?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's 2 different dates,
I
yeah.
could have said, that. Yeah, so it's 2 different dates that they're asking for. Is that
So moved.
right?
Second.
All right,
Oh,
motion's
boy.
been made and
Guys are
seconded
out of
by
control.
Mike. I'll let you figure out who. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, 5-0 on that one, Mike. Next item we have is the acceptance of one-day liquor license.
Nope.
No, this is Plymouth County Hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry, under the request, Board of Health permission to use Plymouth County Hospital for annual hazardous waste day, which is item 6 on our agendas, it's because we jumped all around. The Board of Health will be hosting hazardous waste day on Saturday, September 16th, 2017. We would like to request permission to use the Plymouth County Hospital site for the collection. It is the only town-owned property that is adequate to hold such a collection, and this is from the Hanson Board of Health. I would entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded.
I can't
All
believe
those in
you
favor,
jumped
say
on
aye.
it, Dawn.
Aye.
5-0? All right,
5-0.
5-0, Hawaii 5-0.
Drop my paint off.
Okay, we're moving on now, I think, right, to the one-day liquor license, or am I missing something?
You missed old business.
Old business
Selectmen's
selectmen's goals, yeah, but there's no number next to it, so I assume there was nothing on it.
No,
Is that correct, Mike?
that actually should be pulled. I think that, we've gone over that the last couple of
Yeah.
meetings and
Gotcha.
received the
Yep.
input.
We have gone over, but I'm wondering, can we actually get a comprehensive, all-inclusive list of what you guys think the goals are? Because one of the other things I want to know is, are we including the prior Board of Selectmen's
Goals.
not yet
Three things that
completed
weren't done,
goals? So I just want to make sure that we're all.
Oh, no,
like, that we have one list that we can kind of
Yes.
keep looking back at. And it would be my fondest desire to, at least once a month, check in on how we're doing on those goals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how other people feel about that, but
That's fine, I think, Mike, if you
like
could put together a single list of,
So
Yeah,
moved.
yeah.
So moved.
And that, yeah.
that was
and-
just a desire. I don't know if
Second.
you can move a desire, but okay.
that's fine. So if you could, Mike, that's probably,
Oh, and that is the plan.
and you also, you already had a list of the other goals.
Yes.
That Bruce read last time.
Yes.
Right, from here, okay. But you're right, those items that aren't finished should be included
Yeah,
onto.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, and
And I believe one of them was the automation of Camp Quaney
Yes.
Yep.
system, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we have item 6 on our agenda, one-day liquor license for Camp Quaney. This is a motion to issue to Miss Ashley Thompson,
moved.
South Wayne,
That's item 13.
for Friday, August 18th, 5 to 11 p.m. It's a wedding. Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Next is the approval of the minutes from July 11th, 2017. Mike, I just want to make a point to it. We had tabled the June's minutes at that time, so we still have to do those, right?
Yes.
June 27th?
yeah, and Mary's still working on those.
And I noticed a minor correction on page 4, under health insurance. It says Chairman McHugh asked if there'd be retro to July 1st. It should be Chairman McGann.
Yes.
So I read them, see?
Yes, no, I haven't chaired a board in quite some
That
time.
was the only change.
I choose
so I-
not to.
I would entertain a motion to accept as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
5-0. Okay. Mike, you were chairman one time, right? One other time before.
Yes, in a former life, yes, and I
Committee report-
enjoyed it and don't want to do it again. Thank you.
Committee reports, Monpont Pond Committee, Mr. Howard.
I have here Friday, July 14th. I was sent this through Mary, that on Wednesday, July 12th, Mass DEP collected water samples on East and West Monpont ponds. Samples were analyzed on July 13th. The East Monpont sample collected on Route 36 boat fam and showed Salmonella bacteria levels of 800 cells per million. The West Monpont pond sample showed Salmonella bacteria levels of 84,000 at the 4th Avenue beach, and 90,000 was at the boat ramp. So that's definitely over the 70,000 that you can have.
All right, so 70, I was gonna ask you that, Don, what is the benchmark that you want?
70,000.
Okay.
And if I'm not mistaken,
So-
Donnie, they've posted signs on that too,
I know.
right?
Well, I'm just letting you know what was done. So I imagine even this week, if they take samples, it's gonna be even higher. That's because of the heat and so forth, even after they did the
Yep.
alum treatment.
Sure.
And the other one was up. No, I lost my second here. No, it was 70,000, yeah, at the boat ramp. And that's all I have on Monpont. They haven't had a meeting. And, or if I have, I've missed it.
I'm sure that the 3 days of 90-degree weather contribute to
That
the
helps it.
high bacteria counts.
But also on Monday, this coming Monday, there's a meeting of the Central Plymouth County Water Division is meeting in Plimpton at 7 o'clock, if anybody was interested in coming to the meeting.
Is that Plimpton Town Hall?
That's the Plimpton Town Hall on Route 58,
Mm-hmm.
at 7 o'clock. That's when they all meet. Well, that's when we'll meet again.
7:28, okay.
And I have nothing else.
Thank you, Donnie. Final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee. Donnie?
Well, that's all. We haven't done anything, and as far as I know, everything was completed except for the material that's left there.
I-
And that's gonna be taken care of
I
in the
saw how
next
big that sand
2
pile
or 3
was.
weeks.
Yep.
I actually took a ride up there, Mike.
Were the rocks in place?
Yeah, no, I saw the big crane on it, on the sand pile. But Mike-
Okay, I put the rocks after he left, so.
Okay. The question I had was on the antenna, that antenna. Are we getting rid of that? How's that going? I know it's not priority, Mike.
No, and I'm not laughing at you. It's just so happens that today,
Yeah.
I reached out to the auctioneer, the same auctioneer that I mentioned sold the stuff from the camp,
Yeah.
and said, you know, the person who bought this for all at $10, but nonetheless, the person who bought this antenna has not come and got the antenna yet.
Okay.
You know, how can I move on from this? Is it permissible to move on? And he was gonna make a phone call to the buyer and see what the buyer's intent is. And in all honesty, going forward, if you know, the gentleman has abandoned his interest in that
Yep.
antenna, well, we're gonna keep the $10. But I'm either gonna look at having it torn down and thrown away for scrap. But prior to that, once I get the okay from him,
Yeah.
I'm gonna reach out to all the communities in the area and see, you know, come and take it. We had originally,
We should just get a truck, put it in it, and go to Casoli's, get it measured, and get the
Yeah,
$25, $30.
the problem is getting it down.
getting it down.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
Well, just cut 2 of the cables, and the first and
It just
the
run.
third one will hold it from going into the school.
And run like hell, right?
No,
Snap
the
back
food
at
pantry. It'll go right down in the open
The
area.
antenna,
there.
the antenna itself has no value, but it's the cost to get it down.
To get it down?
Put it on the ground is where
originally.
How high's your crane go, Kenny?
132 feet, 2,500 pounds I could
That'll
put.
do it. Originally, the intent was, or the thought was that, I forget whether it was the county or there was some official agency that had expressed some interest in taking, might have even been Middleborough. And then they stepped back from it. Then we decided to put it out for bid, got the big $10 for it.
Okay.
But what I would like to do, prior to us tearing it down and bringing it for scrap, because as Kenny mentions, it's going to cost money to even to do that, it might not cover it, is to reach out one last time to all the communities in the area and say, hey, look, we have a tower. If
Would
you
you
have
be
any interest
interested?
in it, you just have to come and take it.
Okay.
No takers, then we get rid of it, because we do have to get rid of it.
There's
so.
one last thing I had too. So when I went up there, I thought it looked great. I saw the site, it looked terrific. Kudos to everybody involved. It looks like a nice grassy field. It's
Grass, a
beautiful.
lot of,
Yeah.
everybody.
It's starting to grow, which tells me that it must have been great loom put in on top. The chimney was still there. The chimney and the fireplace.
Yeah, we're moving forward on having the chimney removed. I'm just not sure whether it's something we can do within the current scope of the authorization from town meeting.
Okay.
And the authorization obviously was to do what we've already done.
Yeah.
I don't want to run afoul of trying to do something outside of the scope, so
I
I'm
understand.
talking, and in all honesty, I think you just touched upon it, Jim. It's not a high priority, but
It's not.
But yeah, it's on the list of
Of things to do. 'Cause I'm
little,
afraid,
small
like, you know,
things to do.
we got some kids going up
Yes.
there, climbing on it, something like that. It could be a problem.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. Next is the Hanson School Repair Committee, Mr. Hickey.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report on Hanson School Repair Committee. Highway Building Committee, Mr. Mitchell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we met last Monday, July 17th. The first thing is, I spoke with Matt O'Neill, Matt is the chief engineer for Hubble, who's been working on the Hawks Street project over there. The property is 95% done. However, he's waiting on one more thing, and that is the plantings. They have to plant in the wetlands. And he hasn't been able to do that because the wetlands have been extra wet because of all the rain and stuff that we've gotten this spring, you know? He admitted to me that they're, a year behind.
Okay.
He said this fall, there's no question in his mind that they'll be able to do that. And then once the permit is closed from the Army Corps of Engineers, once that permit is closed, at that point, they can subdivide the property and convey it over to the town of Hanson. So you're probably realistically looking at the winter time before the property can be conveyed. So during our meeting, we spoke, and Mike came, thank you very much. Mike was there, which was very helpful. So we spoke with the company, Dan Tanney's his name, it's Weston and Sampson. So we haven't seen Dan or spoke to Dan in 5 or 6 months because we've kind of been in a little bit of limbo. So Dan brought some really good information to us. He's been working on a couple different projects for a couple different municipalities that he's done over the past 6 months, both being highway buildings or DPWs. And what he's been seeing is on one of the projects, the cost came in a little bit more than what his estimated cost was to the town. And on the other one, it was around the same. So what Dan suggested, because, we keep losing time here, we're losing time.
Yep.
If we wait until the property's conveyed over in, the wintertime, now you're looking at next May before we can do anything at all.
Right.
So what he proposed to the committee, and the committee was all in agreement, was to go for and the numbers, that's one thing we don't have yet, is still, we're fine tuning the numbers, we're probably another 30 days at least away from, estimated numbers on what the actual buildings, I know everyone's looking for the number, but I don't have the number.
Okay.
But what Dan's requesting is that we go to request for funding for engineering and the final phase of the project. So what we do is he'll give us that amount, I don't have that dollar amount, but that will be easy for him to get. He's gonna have that by August 20th. So we go to town meeting, and this is with a lot of education before that, we're not just gonna go to town meeting.
Yep.
With the engineering and the final design phase, okay? And what that's gonna do, and then I'll back up and talk about how we're gonna educate everybody for a second. What that's gonna do is, that's gonna allow him or us, Mike, to be able to do an actual RFP on the building next, let's say, March, and be able to do an RFP and get an actual physical cost that somebody's committed to build this building. and then be able to go to town meeting and say, listen, Mike did an RFP, we had 3 companies come in, it's gonna cost X. And then we'll have a physical number, so we're not playing that Russian roulette game. Hey, it's gonna be, it's gonna be $10 to build it, and it comes in at 12, then we're in trouble. If we
I
get-
gotcha.
No, you'll
you
be
know?
doing it within a couple of months of when we're going to town
Right,
meeting. so
and
it'll be-
we're not losing that precious time that
Yeah.
we're all concerned about.
And you're talking 2018 town meeting, May
Cor-
town meeting,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yep,
And-
that's
And
correct.
you'll be armed, you'll have the time to educate people, you'll be armed, we'll be
Yeah.
doing
Yep.
due diligence.
Now,
we'll be-
as far as education, Laura, that's an excellent point. So what they'll do is they're gonna work on the public awareness along with us. They're gonna work on the need for the project, They're excellent. They're gonna work on, they're gonna do things as far as, they're gonna give us a cost of doing this building here, plus a cost of building it from scratch if we had 7 acres.
Yep.
So we can look at the tax base and say, listen, this is if we went down the street and built this. This is if we take the existing structure that we have now and built this. He's gonna do that. His company is also gonna do, I know one of Laura's emails to me, and sorry to disclose any emails, but it was a good one. That one of the things was the old building, so as far as getting a cost to see, what we have to do to the old building. So they're willing to help us with that as well. So what he did is, he said that what we need an environmental assessment of the existing highway facility, okay? And what he suggested that we do, and this is, I'm not gonna read this, I'm not gonna bore you guys, but what we would need, we just said, we need some just kinda rough estimates here, what this is gonna cost, nothing, concrete.
Yeah.
So he said the first thing we would have to do would be phase 1, would do an ESA. An ESA is an environmental site assessment. With a building that size, that would cost around $15,000. Okay? And then that's phase 1. Phase 2, depending on what we get from the ESA, all right, which is the recognized environmental conditions, depends on what's identified on phase 1, would determine how much the cost of phase 2 would be. Phase 2 with a building that size is between $10,000 on the low, $30,000 on the high.
For what?
Okay, that's to get an
the
assessment
assessment?
on that property. Let's say, God forbid, there was some spilt milk and they said, oh, we're gonna have to dig this all out and all that.
Okay.
This engineer and this plan will tell us exactly what we have
Any
there.
hazardous materials, all that.
I like that, because the thing is, Kenny, one way or another, we need to know what we're dealing with on that property.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I think that it would be, I think people, as we've discussed, people want to know, soup to nuts, how much is it going to cost? The new
Right.
thing, tearing down and cleaning up the
Now,
old
one
thing?
of the other things is, we want to know what it's gonna cost to remove the old facility, and we want to know, obviously, what's under the ground, but we don't want to incorporate the two together. One reason is funding purposes. We're probably gonna end up doing a debt exclusion for probably 20 years, I'm guessing. We still don't know how we're gonna pay for it. But anytime you do any demos, you can't put that in a 20-year debt exclusion. You're looking at a 5-year.
You're gonna wanna do it in phases. People are not
Right.
gonna be, no matter what those costs come in at, it's gonna be staggering if you put them together.
Right.
People would, so the only way it would ever pass, if people want it to pass, is to do it in stages. But at least they'll be fully informed
That's right.
about what the plan is, from soup to nuts.
But our goal is to make sure everybody is fully informed, except for the final price until we get into
Yeah.
the spring, by town meeting in October. So we're gonna have a few public open meetings. I put a call into Dan to see if he'd do the cable show with me. He already responded, yes, absolutely. They're willing to do anything to help us market this and get it out there.
Talk to
That sounds
Bob-
really
Bob
positive.
Hayes, get on his show too.
Yeah, either Bob or Kevin Tachi.
Jeff,
Yeah.
Kevin
You know.
Tachi, yep.
So we were excited. I was a little bummed out after talking to the engineer when the engineer said, "Sorry, Kenny, it's going to be winter." So I'm thinking, how many times are we going? Another,
What can we
But
do?
then after speaking with Dan, he goes, "Kenny, I have some great ideas. Don't worry about it."
Yeah.
I had several conversations with him before we met, probably 4 or 5.
That
And
sounds
told
like
him where
great.
we are, and he's basing everything off the 2 projects that he literally is working on, the past 5 or 6 months. He says, obviously, Kenny, cost is an issue to the town of Hanson.
Yep.
So, let's not get caught. Let's go in and do it. You'll be able to come to the people and say, this is what I have. Mike would have to work his magic as far as when he does the RFP.
How to fund it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that too, yes,
Yeah,
that too.
yeah.
But I think an RFP is normally good for 30 days, but I think if you disclose it and say, hey, look, we're gonna need it
Yeah.
longer than that,
Yeah.
and tell the reasons, so I think that's a great approach. We don't lose any time, we get this conveyed over in winter, and, so that's kinda how we left this, so it was a really good meeting, I was very excited
I
to
love
come
it.
out of there with
Yeah.
at least
No.
some more
Lot of
answers.
energy.
So
Kudos to you, Kenny.
we're gonna meet again and Mike too, he wasn't invited and he came to the door. He actually, to his credit, he sent me an email like an hour before and said, do you need me at the highway meeting? I never saw it until I was on the way home and he showed up, so,
So he was seeking forgiveness. Not permission. Yeah.
so, no, it was well appreciated. And then we'll look into the, the funding and stuff, aspects of it, but we're gonna meet it again next month and just
I think
hit the
what's,
ground running.
I think what's really impressive, Kenny, is that you're gonna have some numbers to present and you're gonna have some finalization.
Yeah.
It looks
Right,
as if
we'll have
it's
real
going to.
numbers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Not
right.
because
It's not-
that's,
we're
it's a
not being
concern
pushed
of
out
us is,
again.
like I said, we come to everyone, they say it's $10 and it comes back at $11, we're all in trouble.
Yeah, you wanna maintain
You
that
know?
credibility. I think this is awesome, and I love the idea that this guy's being very thoughtful about what he's suggesting to you and saying, like, keep the momentum going, don't let that
Yeah.
get you down.
Yeah,
So,
so it was good, it's very,
Yeah.
very encouraging.
yeah.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion, Tracy, if we can make sure we educate the public for this, right?
Tracy's
Wanna
gonna
get them
help.
out there. Tracy, you're gonna help
Tracy
them?
always does a wonderful job for
That's
us, educating.
Everything
We
hinges
just-
on you,
We
Tracy.
just have to promise just to make sure and not have the AC too cold for her.
That's right. Okay,
Turning blue.
motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Adjourned. Thank you all.